My name is Michael Turner, a long-haul truck driver who spent more than 10 years of my life on the roads of the United States. My life is simple. Wake up early, check the tires, fill up with diesel, make sure the load is secure, and drive hundreds of miles to my next destination. For most people, the road at night feels empty and eerie, but for me, it's oddly calming. The streetlights stretch on like endless yellow lines, clearing my mind. Beyond the windshield of my truck, the world feels vast, yet strangely quieter. That night was just another ordinary one on Highway 170, one of my favorite routes toward Kansas City. The weather was clear, the full moon hung low in the sky, and the autumn air was just the right kind of cool. No storms, no heavy traffic, just the long road ahead and the soft hum of the engine. On the passenger seat, there was a thermos of hot coffee from my wife, Claire, with a small note she'd written for me that morning. "Drive safe, Mike." Every time I saw that note, a warm feeling spread through my chest. My CB radio was silent. No trucker chatter, no weather warnings, no casual back and forth to liven up the night. Everything was going smoothly. I was enjoying the drive, even humming along to an old song on the stereo. With the digital clock on the dashboard reading 11:47 p.m., I felt like this was one of the calmest nights I'd had in weeks. I had no idea that in just a few minutes, that calm would shatter. And that night, one that had started as a regular routine, would turn into something I would never forget for the rest of my life. Something that would make me believe there are things on the road that can't be explained by logic. I had no idea that in just a few minutes, that calm would shatter. And that night, one that had started as a regular routine, would turn into something I would never forget for the rest of my life. Something that would make me believe there are things on the road that can't be explained by logic. Then, it all began. Just as the clock on the dashboard ticked to 11:48 p.m., my CB radio, which had been silent until then, suddenly flickered to life with a soft click. Its little light blinked twice, and then a gentle static filled the cabin. I jumped a little. There were no other drivers on the road that I could see, so there was no way anyone was making a call. I hadn't touched any buttons. I leaned forward, trying to hear more clearly. The first few seconds were just static, but then, slowly, a voice emerged, sending chills down my spine. A man's voice, soft, hoarse, like someone holding their breath for too long. "Truck, stop, now." I froze, not because of the words, but because of the tone. It sounded too close, like it wasn't coming from the little radio on my dashboard, but from someone sitting right behind my seat. I swallowed hard and reached for the volume knob, making sure I hadn't misheard. The indicator light blinked steadily. No signals were coming through except that voice. Then it came again, a little clearer this time. "Mike, you have to stop, now." I froze. I never mentioned my name over the CB that night. No other truckers knew I was on this route. No one else knew I was behind the wheel of this truck, except Claire, and she wasn't talking through this old radio. The road ahead of me was still empty, the headlights reflecting off a smooth, straight stretch of asphalt that showed no signs of trouble, no road damage, no broken down cars, no animals crossing. Then the voice came again, this time more urgent, almost like a whisper, "Stop! Ahead! Please! Before it's too late!" I stared out at the dark road. Only darkness, only silence, nothing there. But the voice, the panic in its tone, the way it said my name, it all felt so real. Too real. For the first time that night, the sense of peace I had felt since the beginning of the trip started to shift into a feeling of unease, and my left hand trembled on the steering wheel. I didn't know what lay ahead. I just knew one thing. Someone, or something, wanted me to stop. Right now. And for some reason, those words made my chest feel like it was being dragged downward. I closed my eyes for a moment, took a deep breath, trying to think clearly. But as soon as I opened my eyes again, my CB radio hissed to life once more, and the voice was back, this time sounding more garbled, like someone was struggling to speak. "Mike, ahead, don't pass." I bit my lip. My eyes refocused on the road ahead, which was beginning to gently incline, and in the distance, I saw something I hadn't noticed before. Thin fog. Not thick, not covering the road completely, just a light white mist like a dusting of cold powder, appearing suddenly in the middle of a night that had been clear just moments before. Fog like that usually appeared in low-lying areas, not on this flat stretch of highway. I slowed down, not because I believed the voice, but because my instincts were starting to kick in. Something was off tonight. As the truck wheels hit the fog, the air inside the cabin suddenly felt colder. Not the cold of the AC, not the cold of the outside air. This was different, cold that felt like it was pulling the skin from within. I tried to calm myself. "Okay, Mike, it's just fog, not a big deal." "Focus," I muttered to myself, but the fog didn't stop. In fact, it thickened. The truck's headlights began to reflect back, casting a white beam that narrowed my vision drastically. I slowed down even more, turned on the hazard lights and leaned forward, trying to see if there was another vehicle. There was nothing, not a single thing. And that's when the radio crackled again. But this time, the voice wasn't the man's. It was a child's voice, soft, trembling, like they were holding back tears. "Don't pass, don't..." I felt my whole body shiver from head to toe. My right hand instinctively turned the volume down, afraid of something I couldn't even see. Who are you?" I whispered, not even sure why I was asking. The answer didn't come from the radio. The answer came from outside the truck, from the side of the road I was passing. As the fog began to thin, I saw something move slowly at the edge of the highway, a small shadow trying to pull aside, something standing, then disappearing back into the fog. My heart was pounding in my chest. I gently pressed the brake pedal and stopped the truck on the shoulder, the headlights still cutting through the fog. Everything felt eerily silent. I gripped the steering wheel tighter. My mind was racing. What's going on? Why was there a child's voice on the radio? And what did I just see at the side of the road? But before I could make any sense of it, the fog in front of my truck parted slightly, and something appeared. Not a person, not a vehicle. Just a small glint on the asphalt, like something reflecting the light from my headlights. I squinted. It was like shards of glass, a lot of them, scattered across the road, stretching for several meters ahead on the main lane. My chest tightened. Shards of glass on the highway usually meant one thing, an accident. But there were no cars, no people, nothing. And then the radio crackled to life again. "Mike, this is the place." The voice had changed again. This time it was an adult's voice, but deep, as if coming from somewhere far away. "I'm here. Stop. Don't move forward." I leaned back in my seat. For the first time that night, I realized something. My purpose wasn't just to deliver the cargo anymore. Now, my goal had shifted to finding out what was happening up ahead and making sure I didn't drive into something that could cost me my life. I had to decide, keep going or pull over and find out what was really going on. And just then, amidst the fog, I heard another sound. A sound that didn't come from the radio, didn't come from the truck, didn't come from the shadow I had just seen. Footsteps, right outside the cabin door. The footsteps were slow, steady, as though someone, or something, was walking around my truck very carefully. The sound was muffled by the fog, but clear enough to send a chill down my spine. I held my breath. There was no reason for anyone to be out in the middle of this fog on a deserted highway, nearly at midnight. And what made me even more nervous? The footsteps stopped right beneath my window. I slowly glanced over. The window was fogged from the outside, making whatever was behind it look like a dark, shapeless shadow. Then, from the fog, a small voice came. Very small. "Don't go forward, sir." I nearly jumped out of my seat. It was the same child's voice from the radio. This time, it was clearer, closer, more real. I gripped the steering wheel tightly. Who are you?" I asked quietly, my voice trembling despite myself. There was no answer, only the soft hiss of fog against the glass, like someone was standing so close to the window. I knew I had to make a decision. The strange voices, thick fog, the glass shards, and the mysterious footsteps were no longer just oddities. Something was wrong up ahead, very wrong. But I was a truck driver. I was responsible for my load, my delivery times, and my own safety. And part of me, the stubborn part, said, I had to know what was really going on. I turned on the extra lights on the roof of the truck, hoping the fog would thin out. The powerful beams spread out, illuminating the road that had been completely dark before. And that's when I saw it. Far ahead, about 100 meters from where I was, there was a vague shape covered in fog. It looked like the frame of a car, crumpled, tilted, partly covered by dust and time. I gasped. It wasn't a recent accident. It looked like a vehicle that had been left there for years. Suddenly, the radio came to life again, loud enough to make me jump. Mike, don't move forward, don't... The voice was cut off, stuck in deep static like the radio had suddenly lost its life. I froze. There was no way that voice could know what I was seeing. No way it could know what lay ahead. And as I stared more intently, my heart stopped for a moment, because behind the frame of that old, wrecked car, I saw a silhouette of someone sitting in the driver's seat, not moving, not looking around, just sitting, staring straight ahead, like waiting for something. I rubbed my eyes, making sure I wasn't hallucinating, but when I opened them again, the figure was still there. I felt my entire body stiffen. This wasn't just some strange voice. This wasn't just some fog. I was standing in front of something I wasn't supposed to see. I closed my eyes for a moment and said to myself, Mike, you only have one choice left. Get out and find out, or turn around and leave, never knowing what really happened on this road. My responsibility as a driver urged me to check it out. My gut instinct held me back. The two forces were fighting inside my head. And I realized, whatever I chose, my life would never be the same again. With trembling hands, I reached for the door handle. I thought all my efforts to stay safe were about to fail. I thought I had no other choice, until finally, something happened. Something that changed everything. Something that made me choose a path I had never even considered. That something was the small voice from outside my truck,